All right, welcome back to Bluebird Territory presented by Miller Lite. Ricky, we're going to do a bit of a Shane Bieber. Okay, what do we got? We've seen him. What do we got? We're going to talk about Ross Atkins meeting with the media. Even though we're 5 weeks away from the deadline, he gave us a few breadcrumbs about what he thinks about the team and what they could need. And they do have a new player, Urias, who had a big hit in his first start as a Blue Jay. We might hit on him at the end too, but I think our cold open should be on the Beebs. All right, Ricky, we both watched the Beaver portion of the start. I went to the Croatia soccer game, so missed the mess that happened at the end of yesterday's game. But what did you think about Shane Bieber's first start this season?
Yeah, I think anytime when you have a pitcher coming back from injury like that, the number one thing that you focus on is did he come out healthy? And when you watch him and you can see the rust. Obviously, you see a little bit of the inconsistencies with his slider. I thought that was the biggest thing. I don't think he ever really gave his slider a chance. I feel like he kept pulling that front side, and you can tell he was battling the whole 4 innings that he was pitching. That he just couldn't get a feel for that slider. And sometimes with breaking ball pitches, it takes a while. I mean, there was times where I threw curveballs, and in the first inning they weren't very good, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, I'm gonna go to something else. I'll find it later on in the game with whenever I'm ahead in the count. And it just seemed like every time he was ahead in the count, he was trying to find that slider, and he really couldn't. He threw one really good one to Jose Altuve. I thought that I was like, wow, that's the slider that we want. That's the slider that he's used to. And it just seemed like after that, he really couldn't throw it again. What I was, obviously they talked about it early in the broadcast, Dan and Caleb. You want to see the 91s, 93s, and I feel like we saw a few 93s there. So that's encouraging. I don't think Shane Bieber is going to be a super high velocity guy like he once was, and it's okay. I mean, I think at the end of the day, those type of pitchers, you still have to be. They rely a lot on command, location, if you're able to hit your spots and stuff like type of pitcher that Shane Bieber is going to be. Typically he's a fastball slider guy, but I thought one of his best pitches yesterday was his changeup. He obviously doesn't throw it very much, but I thought some of those changeups were really, really good. And he had some swings and misses on that. And, for him at this point in his career, obviously, you got Kevin Gausman, just Savage, Dylan Cease. You need, him to be, he has to have some stability, have some stability for the team in the back end of that rotation. Again, I thought his mechanics looked a bit rushed at times. The first 3 innings, he like cruised, man. Like I don't even think that there was some hard hit balls, but others weren't really squared up. And then all of a sudden, everything just fell apart. I feel like in the first inning, again, I don't think this is on purpose or anything like that, but I thought Jesus Sanchez could have played that ball a little bit better on that double from Altuve. But shit happens there. But at the end of the day, I like I said, I'm happy that he's healthy, one, and two, that he gets another. He's going to get another shot. Obviously, the biggest question is too, like, how does it feel today? How does it feel tomorrow? How does he feel when he throws his side session? How does he recover from his side session? There's all these little things that you have to kind of cross off, and for him to be able to be like, okay, I'm good. I feel good. On to the next start. This is a little bit for me, a little bit of a wash, even though I feel like this team really can't afford to have a wash of a start because you're a team that's in the wild card race. You're you were at 500. You have been one of the best teams. I didn't even know this, Mitch, but I didn't know they were 18 and 12 in the last 30 games.
Yeah, that blew my mind too.
Like top 5 teams in the Major League Baseball in the last 30 games. So it's almost like I was talking to my son yesterday. It's like, man, are they doing it again? Like, are we going to believe again? Because I feel like we've talked about a lot about this, and it's like they have us believe, and then they go through a really rough stretch. They have us believe, and and the fact that they've quietly kind of work themselves back into this mix where they're at 500, one game under 500, and it's like, all right, when do they finally get over the hump? But at the end of the day, again, encouraging start from Shane. It's probably not where he wants to be. I'm sure he was unhappy with his outing. I think anytime, You come back from injury, whatever it is, you still want to give the team the best chance to win. And I know we keep saying that, but that's really a starter's mentality. I'm sure he wanted to get into the sixth inning, um, coming back from injury. So, in all, again, I'm curious to see how he bounces back for his next start.
Yeah, I think the velo, he averaged 91.7, peaked 92.7. I think, like, obviously, I think he and the Jays would like love to touch some like real 93s. He did that last year sometimes. When he won his Cy Young in 2020, he was like throwing 95, 96. We're not going to see that, I don't think, from Shane Bieber. But he's still, at times, when he's sitting 91, especially last year, there'd be games where he'd still dominate because he is such a
Yeah.
command pitcher. And I think that's just from watching the start yesterday. They going back through, like, you look at like the plot of all of his pitches, and last year when he's at his best, and Patrick Corbin too, when he's at his best, it's like shocking how many of those pitches are like directly on the black, or clearly like changeups off the black. You see it's like a strike to ball changeup. He had like the slider, as you mentioned. You could see like the shape of the pitch, but it was just kind of sprayed across the entire strike zone from the
Yeah.
top to the bottom and away. You can see he just doesn't have the consistency there. And so if he gets it back, I think we can see a pretty effective Shane Bieber. But my question to you, Ricky, is I know you haven't gone through, we don't exactly even know what his injury was, but for a guy who's pitched, missed some time, come back, like how long has it taken you to refine your command? Is it different every injury or different every time for the same injury? Like, is there any kind of timeline for this for him to like really lock that in?
Man, you would hope that if he's back with the team, he's ready to roll. I don't think this team has a chance, has any time to sit there and be like, all right, we got to wait till this guy figures it out. Now, if there were 10, 15 games out of 500 and they're not nowhere near playoff race, you're like, all right, let's just go see how you feel and kind of get you back and get you ready for next season. But right now, this team needs to win right now. And I don't think they'd be bringing him here without knowing that, hey, this is the best guy we got, and this is a guy that can give us an opportunity to win. Obviously, we saw some great starts out of him last year in the World Series and the playoff run that the Toronto Blue Jays had, and that's why they acquired him. And when you bring him up, you expect him to be this Shane Bieber that we're accustomed to seeing, which is a command guy, giving the team a chance to win, and getting deep into the game, 6, 7 innings. So you hope that it's like, okay, this was the one bleep in his in the season. You kind of continue, he can roll from here and say, okay, I got to go back and look at these adjustments that I have to make. I'm sure they're going to look at video because it did look like his slider was it just seemed like the hitters were spitting on it right out of the hand, and that typically happens when hitters see ball to ball out of the hand. It's different when they see a strike right down the middle and that ball just dives like it did to Jose Altuve. I go back to that pitch because I saw that slider and I was like, that's it right there. That's the one. And it just seemed like he couldn't really find that pitch the rest of the game, or even early in the game before that. Like he was ahead, and you could tell he was fighting himself. Again, that probably comes with first game jitters too. There's probably some excitement for him. The fact that he hasn't seen the mound in a long time. He's been on minor league rehab assignment, and then all of a sudden you get thrown into the big league mound. No matter how, if you're a 1 year guy or a 2 year guy or a 10 year guy, I feel like there's always those type of jitters with guys that are coming back from injury because it is a long road, man. I think sometimes, not that we take it for granted, but you kind of sit there and you're like, man, like I really miss the competition of pitching on the big league mound. And when you do, whether you're a rookie or a veteran, you get that chance back after coming back from injury because there's a lot of like rehab, a lot of boring sessions with your trainers and sitting alone at home. He was probably in Florida, just like, man, wondering it like when am I going to feel better? And now the fact that he gets back, obviously there's those little jitters where it's like, man, he probably was just felt a little bit too rushed. And you just hope he kind of settles in for the next start. Again, this is a guy that has won a Cy Young, knows what his pitches do, knows what his pitches need to do and the adjustments that he has to make. So I have no doubt that he's going to come back even stronger his second start. I'm really curious to see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah, so am I. I think you mentioned kind of like the boringness of rehab. He's also a guy who's been rehabbing for like 70% of the last 25 months too. Like it's got to
Yeah.
just been like killing him. Because you rehab from Tommy John, it got delayed a little. He comes back with the Jays right into a pennant chase and a World Series run. and then you start rehabbing again and you come back in the middle of the next season. Like, that's the only baseball before yesterday's start that this guy's pitched in the last 25 months is like the most important baseball he's ever thrown in his life. It's kind of a weird dichotomy for him.
Yeah, and they mentioned it on the telecast yesterday, right? Cody Ponce was seen in the dugout, and they said like he talked about it. He goes, I want to be around the guys. There's a lot of lonely days, and I spent some of those days in Dunedin, Florida. Yes, you're around other guys, younger guys. You're trying to mentor them and talk to them and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you miss your team, and you feel like you're on the outside looking in. Again, you show up early to the ballpark, you do your stuff, you're done, but by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then you head home, and then you're just like, what do I do now? Where, when you're in season, you're on a routine, you're with the guys, you feel like you're part of the team. So I feel like any chance that these guys get, like for like Cody, like they talked about it yesterday, he's, they're in a long homestand, he gets to come be there and be around the guys. I think it's very fulfilling for a player who's on the IL and obviously out for the season like he is.
Yeah, he is, I believe, out for the season, but that's a good segue into talking about what Ross Atkins said before yesterday's game. He met with the media. We're still 5 weeks out from the deadline, but he did kind of give us some points to the direction that the Jays might take. But he was also asked about, is Cody Ponce like definitively done for the season? And Ross's answer was he would have to really exceed expectations to be back this year. So he didn't fully close the door, but I think we're kind of assuming, unless like this guy's making a magic comeback for the American League Championship Series or something like that, which that would be a crazy story to tell and a crazy story to see. I think he probably is done, but we're going to take a break and come back and talk about the rest of what Ross had to say yesterday after this quick break.
Baseball season is back, and it's a great time to drink a cold Miller Lite.
It's the perfect time to watch a game with some friends and drink a cold Miller Lite.
It's got that great taste, and it's just 90 calories in a 355 milliliter can. For all my fellow Canadians, Miller Lite is the official beer of baseball in Canada, so why not go grab some Miller Lites today? Because your game time is Miller time. Must be legal drinking age. Celebrate responsibly.
You know why you're enjoying this minute? Because we're happy, Kratz. We're happy because we're wearing Mack Weldon.
Yes, I'm 6'5", and nobody can give me tall clothing, but Mack Weldon allows me to have it. So I don't really have to care about how I look, and I still look good because I don't put a lot of time into what I do to pick out my clothes. Mack Weldon takes care of it for me.
Classic, always in style, made from the world's most comfortable performance materials. Summer gets sweaty, don't let unnecessary sweat spots emerge. Mack Weldon's Air Knit X fabric helps you out. Their lightest fabric is fused with nylon mesh for maximum airflow. Skip the midday wardrobe changes. The barely there feel also keeps you feeling more dry and fresh. Don't sweat the heat this summer. Feel as effortlessly cool as you look with Mack Weldon. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 20% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code FOUL. That's MackWeldon.com, code FOUL.
All right, Ricky. I think it was, a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. It was you and me. Kevin was off somewhere. Maybe it was the technical issues episode when he was in Sedona. We were talking about, okay, what are like the chances this team buys and sells? And you mentioned they're 18-12 in the last whatever that game is, that a number of games is. That'd be 30 games, I guess. One of the best teams in baseball over the last month. It doesn't. You're right. They haven't done it as loudly as last year's team. They like won 10 games in a row, and they obviously started a little worse than that team too. So they're in a bit of a hole, but like yesterday was the first time in a long time where they lost a game and it didn't push them out of a playoff spot. Like they lost a game and they're still in the third wild card spot. I think in the next 5 weeks, things would have to go pretty disastrously for this team to be a seller. And Ross Atkins was asked about what he thinks the needs of the team are. And so I think that is going to be our Bet365 deep dive. I'm just going to pull up the playoff odds to kind of prove the point I was just telling. The Jays are in the middle there. That's minus 160 to make the playoffs. Pretty similar odds to the Guardians. And what is that? That's the Yankees are ahead of them, the Mariners, Rays, and Guardians are ahead of them in the American League. So this is the 5th best odds in the American League to make the playoffs at pretty minus money. Like they're looking pretty good. And every time the Jays have been in the mix, not necessarily even in a playoff spot around deadline day, they buy. They kind of do a similar thing every year. They go get a starting pitcher, they go get a reliever, and they go get some kind of complimentary bat. But Atkins yesterday was asked what he thought the team's biggest need was, and it wasn't necessarily what I thought the answer would be. He basically said starting pitching, ideally optionable pitching, which like every team wants optionable pitching, but I would have thought it was maybe a right-handed bat for the lineup, a reliever who hasn't pitched a million innings by July. I do think this team needs starter depth, but what did you make of that comment from Ross, Ricky?
Trust me, man. I heard the uproar from the fans right away. I started reading some of the comments, and they were like, "What? We need a bat. We need to get these bats going, and we need a big bat, and this and that." Well, the reality is that to get a big bat, you would have to get rid of some of the assets that they've developed. And again, prospects are prospects. You don't know how they're going to turn out in the big leagues. I totally understand that, but at the end of the day, you kind of we've talked about it before. Pitching, you always need pitching, and the more depth you have, the better off you're going to be. And obviously, they're in a good spot with Woods Richardson, a guy that again came over and he's kind of been impressive, right, Mitch? I mean,
Yeah, he's
I mean,
lasted longer than I thought he would for sure. Like he's
yeah,
pitched
for
his way
sure.
onto sticking.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. I think sometimes when you come to a new team and you hear a different voice, it's good for yourself as and you kind of maybe see it from a different perspective. Sometimes the grass is greener on the other side. Um, a lot of times it isn't, but in this situation, he probably just needed a different change of scenery, and it just seems like he's settled in pretty nice into his role. Obviously, he's a guy that's a starter, but he's been thrown into that middle relief role, and he's accepted it well, and he's done his job. So again, I think at the end of the day, I really want to see where this team is at by the trade deadline and what type of moves. Obviously, for me, pitching is always going to be key, and I'm sure Ross and Mark understand that. Yes, the hitting does need help, and but when you look at hitters, you're like, all right, who would they be able to add right now? You traded for Sanchez. He's kind of been your guy out there. I mean, minus his defense, he hasn't really been bad at the plate. I mean, he's been fairly decent. Obviously, you're still hoping you get Addison Barger back. Dalton Varsho obviously has been pretty. It's been an up and down season for him, but he had a pretty nice game yesterday. I think what from reading it from the fans, obviously they want to see power, they want to see home runs, and I think that's one of the things that this team has lacked. Obviously, from their biggest star in Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But obviously, again, it's one of those things where, to me, pitching you can never have endless pitching. You just need it as much as you can, especially for a deep playoff run. And I think they probably look back at last season and they say, "Hey, man, like we were so close," and it's always good to just continue to have pitching, and continue to add to that depth. And not only for this season, but it probably sets you up for next season and maybe a couple seasons from now. Yes, you want to live in the now, but also in this game, you also want to think about the future and okay, how is this gonna shape us up for next season? Yes, we want to win the World Series this year, but how does this shape us up for this season, for the next season, and for the following season? Are these guys that we can maybe control as far as have team control over them and stuff like that? So I feel like they've done a pretty good job at that. Obviously, yeah, I mean, a setup guy. I don't know. I mean, seemed like they needed one yesterday. I mean, Jeff
Yeah,
Hoffman did the job yesterday, and we talked a little bit off air, right? I mean, yes, Hoffman has struggled, but and maybe they were playing matchups, but when it comes to a closing situation, if Louis Varland's down, I mean, I'd give it to the guy who's done it before. Yes, it hasn't been pretty, but at the end of the day, Jeff Hoffman knows what it takes to close a game down. And I didn't know this, but I think they showed it on the telecast yesterday that they have not sure how many blown saves the bullpen has, but it was a lot. It was a lot,
yeah,
and I think when you look at Mark's comments, you're just like, or I mean Ross's comments, you're like, okay, maybe they do need help with pitching because if you think it was how many games, man, and I almost took a picture. Maybe I have it. Hold on. Give me a sec. Uh, it was here it is. Louis Varland is 16 for 16 in save opportunities. The rest of the Blue Jays are 9 for 21.
Wow. Yeah,
That's crazy.
that is crazy. Below 50% convert rate on a save. Like I think part of that is this team has like a 1-run lead. It seems like whenever it has lead. I know it was 2 yesterday,
Yeah.
but it's not like it's not like a consistent 3-run save situation. Part of it I think is like the bullpen overall, both objectively and just from like watching, has been pretty good. Like I don't think it's like the reason this team is down. It just seems like when it goes bad, it goes like really bad. Like they don't have a couple
Yeah.
days where it's like they have a 4-1 lead, the bullpen gives up 2, they still win. It's when the
Yeah.
bullpen gives up runs, it's days like yesterday
It's
where they're giving up 7 runs.
yeah, it's tight. It's one of those things where they haven't had a little bit of a long leash where it's like, okay, if we give up 2 runs, we're still up 5 runs. Like it's none of that. And you kind of sit there and you look at that and you're like, if you just add not even 10 wins out of that, if you add 5, it just makes the whole world of difference for these guys and this team and where they're at. Like it just completely shifts the narrative the other way. And you're like, man, they actually find themselves in second place, not too far from the Yankees. So yes, pitching is key, and it's always going to be key in a Major League Baseball team. And I think that's why Ross came out and said what he said. You can never have enough depth. So we'll see what happens. And again, at the end of the day, yes, you want to see a high octane offense, and you hope that these guys, you just hope that Vladdy finally, I don't know, something happens, man, because godly, it's just
Yeah, I think so. After a couple questions after Ross got asked about the biggest need, he said pitching. I asked him specifically about the offense, being like, "Is there anywhere you see as a specific need on offense?" And he didn't respond with like, "Oh, like this specific position or a skill set like this." He said, "The thing we need our offense to do, and this is not a direct quote, is paraphrasing, is we need it to get healthy and we need it to get up to performance." And my read on that is they want to see what it looks like when Barger's back. And at the end of the day, even if they go out and get like a borderline all-star hitter, if they get to October and Vlad isn't hitting and George isn't hitting, this team's probably not going to win the World Series either way.
yeah,
Like, there's nothing
no
one
doubt.
bat can do. So if they're going to make any noise, like okay, we go shore up the rotation, we go add a 7th or 8th inning guy. The
Hmm.
offense, Vladdy, George, guys, that's kind of on you. Like, and everyone else, of course, but it's like those are the guys who can elevate this offense from where we've seen it to be to where it needs to be to win in October. There's no outside help that's going to change that.
That's true. I agree with that, Mitch. I think at the end of the day, everything runs through those guys, and we saw what they did last year was pretty special. And it's not easy to repeat it, right? I mean, you always wonder, like, is George going to be able to sustain this and be able to carry it into next season? Well, it really hasn't happened, and it's okay. That happens. I mean, it's just part of baseball and part of like what the season that they've had so far. And somebody like Vladdy, obviously, you're just like I saw Edwin Encarnacion in the dugout yesterday, and I was like, okay, something might be brewing. And I know he's been there in the past, but I think this time it just felt like a little bit different. And you just see him observing his at bats and watching him, and and I think at the end of the day, it's probably more in between the ears, more than anything. I think at this point, it's like we know he can do it physically. We know he can do it. It's mentally, like, has it taken its toll? Is he thinking too much? Is he, and this is not to create any excuses for him at all. I mean, at the end of the day, he gets paid to perform, and he should go out there and perform and do his job. And but when you see him yesterday, who was it? Nate Pearson kicked the ball or fielded a ball and made an error to first base, and he ran. When he scored, when he got to second base on a stolen base, second and third base hit, you saw him going all out to score that second run from second base. And that's the thing that I love about Vladdy, and I've always appreciated it. It's like, man, that this dude, if it's the game's on the line, no matter how he's doing at the plate, he's gonna go out there and go, go hard, and that's what he did. And again, you just, man, I'm running out of things to say about him, but like, you just hope that something clicks, because I'm sure everyone's waiting, everyone's getting impatient, and a lot of people obviously uh are not happy.
Yeah, I feel like I just feel like we're waiting. It's like, I don't think either of us think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has just gotten like 50% worse at baseball in the last 6 months. You're just waiting for him to get going, and didn't think we'd be waiting on June 24th, but we're still waiting, and I'm probably going to be waiting until it happens. We're all going to be waiting until it happens. Then, if it does happen, if he does rattle off that hot streak, we'll get back on here to talk about it. I'm just going to close out our Bet365 deep dive here. Bet365, download the app and see what early payouts all about. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has concerns about gambling, visit ConnexOntario.ca. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Ricky, last little note here. I saw, as I mentioned, the first half of yesterday's game. I saw Luis Urias diving for a ball up the middle, and that's kind of the only taste I got of him. You watched the whole game. What was your initial impressions on what the Jays have here?
I like it, man. I mean, he's a good ball player, and he always has been. I think it takes me back to watching him play for Team Mexico in the WBC and how important he was for that team, how he led that team. He was one of the staples of that lineup, and defensively, offensively, he was just one of those guys that was pretty consistent for Team Mexico. And obviously, he's a guy that's been around. He knows what it takes. Obviously, you hope that Ernie Clement's injury is not serious. But they got him for a reason. They got him because they know he can defend, he can hit. Obviously, he proved it yesterday. And you mentioned him diving for that play. I mean, I think he had one late in the game too, where he just like was trying to keep it in the infield. Obviously, it went up the middle. I like the move. Obviously, anytime you're able to have depth, obviously people are going to criticize and say, "Oh yeah, well he's not a power guy. He's not this. He's not that." Well, you know what? Shoot, man. There's not.
They got him
If there
for
was a
free,
power
guys. Yeah.
right? If there was a power guy sitting out there, I'm sure he would be snagged by now. Like there's nobody really out there that they just can go. And I think sometimes people's perception of a trade is like, hey, can I have Aaron Judge for for I don't know, for
Yeah, it's like fantasy
whoever.
baseball. Yeah.
Yeah, it ain't like that. I think that it's different. There's a lot more steps to follow and stuff like that. And as much as yes, you want a big bat and you want to go and get this and you want to sit here and play GM, it's not as easy as you think it is. And again, when you add a guy like Luis Urias, a guy that's been in the big leagues for a while, it adds another, I believe, Mexican to the team. I think
Yeah,
this
well,
is the
that's
most they've
3 of
ever
them.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And again, a guy that you know what you're going to get out of. He's going to go out there. He's going to play the game hard. He's going to give you a chance to win. He's defensively, like I said, he's pretty solid back there. And anything after that, I think it's a big plus. If he's able to get on base, if he's able to drive in runs, hit home runs, hit for power, I think that's even a bigger plus. But you just need him to hold the second base, hold it down till Ernie's ready, and then once Ernie comes back, he turns it to a utility infielder for maybe the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't know. I mean, obviously we've seen Andres Jimenez kind of deal with some injuries too, and maybe he can take a day off. I mean, I feel like Okamoto has been in there a lot this season. Maybe he can get off his feet a little bit. There's just this guy. I feel like I believe he's played other positions, right, Mitch?
Yeah, it's second and third. He's played a little short, but from what it sounds like, those are the 2 positions they would be most comfortable playing him at.
Yeah. So again, I mean, I like the move. It's purely a depth move, and maybe that was the best available out there. And again, you just hope Ernie comes back healthy and ready to roll. And just waiting, man. I mean, they were at 500 yesterday. They're one game under 500, and it's almost like it's going to be a huge victory when they finally go one game over 500. So again, it's one of these things where it's it's a fun team to watch when they're going well, and when it's not going well, it's like, man, what happened? Because like I said, yesterday was a very winnable game. And anytime, I think John Schneider said it best, like when you have the right guys in place, you expect to win the game. And when it doesn't happen, it's tough pill to swallow there. I'm not quoting him, but he said something along those lines. Like they had the perfect guys in the perfect situations for a win, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, we'll see if they can get back to 500 tonight. And then, eventually they've been doing this dance with 500 for, it seems like, 2.5 months. Eventually, They got to get above and never look back. You don't have to get too far above in the current American League to like basically make the playoffs, but eventually you do have to get above. We'll see if the Jays can do that in the next couple days. Thanks for hopping on, Ricky, and thanks for everyone for listening to this episode of Blue Bird Territory.
If you made it this far, you'll love this next video. Check it out right here. And make sure you've subscribed to Blue Bird Territory for more Jays coverage like this multiple times a week.